I'd like to call this July 2nd meeting of the Cookeville City Council to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilman Anderson.
Present.
Councilman Shelton.
Here.
Mayor Salee.
Present.
Vice Mayor Davis.
Present.
Councilman Williams.
Present.
All present.
Thank you, Kathy. If we could all rise for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Shipley, do we have any additions or corrections to the agenda?
We have one addition. It'll be item 14. It's a resolution to support and promote the 2010 United States Census of the City of Cookeville, Tennessee.
All right. Do we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Have our motion, our second. Any comments from the council? Seeing none, I'll vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Brings us to the old business portion of our meeting. Item 2, consider approval of minutes of council meeting held on June the 18th, 2009. Do we have a motion and a second to approve?
So moved. Second.
Have our motion and second. Any discussion by the council? Any comments from the audience? Seeing none, I'll vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you. And in our consent agenda tonight, we have 3 items. Setting a date for a public hearing on Ordinance 090713, amending Section 230 of the Cookeville Zoning Code to adopt revised floodplain regulations as mandated by FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. And item 4, consider awarding bid for annual and semi-annual materials with the Public Works Department. And item 5, consider awarding bid for the feed-through cabinet at the Electric Department. Do we have any? Do we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda?
Move approval. Second.
We have our motion and our second. Do we need any discussion on those items? Seeing no discussion, I'll vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
All right, now to the new business portion of our meeting. Item 6, hold a public hearing and consider on first reading Ordinance 090608, rezoning properties between West 5th and 7th Streets and North Cedar Avenue and Mailer Avenue from MS Medical Services and CL Local Commercial to UNV University Zoning. Sponsor Mr. James Mills.
Mayor and council members, this proposed rezoning was initiated by the owners of property at 527 North Peachtree Avenue, which is the location of the Phi Gamma Delta fraternity. The request was to rezone the fraternity from MS Medical Services to UNV University. The request also included petitions from additional property owners indicating that they also favored the rezoning of their properties to UNV. These properties were 506 and 514 North Walnut Avenue, 520, 528 North Walnut Avenue, 642 North Peachtree, 90 West 7th, 606 North Walnut, and 605 North Peachtree. The petition indicated that the reason for the request was that under the current MS zoning, the uses of the properties were non-conforming and were prohibited from acquiring additional properties to expand. It was specifically noted that a number of Greek organizations were affected by the current zoning. And the current zoning is depicted upon the screen. Based upon the location and number of property owners requesting rezoning and the stated purpose of the request, the Planning Department identified a comprehensive and contiguous area to consider for rezoning. The identified area contained 23 properties located between West 7th and West 5th Streets and between Mailer Avenue and North Cedar Avenue. The study area also included properties zoned as CL Local Commercial. The majority of the properties in this area are used for university-related purposes. A total of 7 Greek organizations are located in the study area. The owners of the properties in the identified study area were notified by the Planning Department and asked to indicate whether they favored or opposed the inclusion of their properties in the rezoning. Of the 23 properties, the owners of 15 either requested or indicated that they favored rezoning, and the owners of 2 properties, one located at 530 Mailer Avenue and the other at 634 North Walnut, opposed rezoning. There were 6 properties in the area for which responses have not been received. The screen indicates the responses. Those 6 properties include 2 fraternities, a student association, a student bookstore, an apartment house, and a single-family dwelling. The study area was placed within the MS and CL zoning districts when the current zoning code was adopted in 2002. Prior to 2002, the entire study area was zoned as university. The 2002 zoning code restricted fraternities to the university district. All existing fraternities not located within the UNV district became legal non-conforming uses. Some of the existing fraternities in the study area are located in deteriorating structures and have previously contacted the planning department about their desire to reconstruct and expand their facilities. Legal non-conforming uses can remain in perpetuity and can expand on their existing properties provided all setback requirements are met. However, the acquisition of property for expansion or reconstruction is prohibited. The MS District was created as part of the 2002 zoning code partially to preserve an area for the medical center to expand and for related medical services to locate. The boundaries of the new district were based upon a study of future medical-related land use needs. An area north of 12th Street was proposed in 2002 for rezoning to university for the potential location of a fraternity row or for the relocation of fraternities. However, that proposal was unsuccessful, and as a result, sites within the city for the relocation of existing fraternities or construction of new fraternities are very limited. None of the existing land uses in the study area are currently used for medical related purposes. Discussions with the officials from the Cookeville Regional Medical Center indicate that the properties in the study area are not necessary for their long-range development plans. The study area is depicted in our comprehensive future land use plan as being best used as public or semi-public and institutional uses. Rezoning the study area to UNV, University would comply with our future land use plan. Proposed rezoning has been approved by the Planning Commission and is recommended by the Planning Department.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mills. Do we have a motion and a second?
So move.
Second.
We have our motion and second. Open up the floor for discussion by the council.
I would like to ask for Mr. Mills to give a few or several uses that can be done in that university zone.
It's the title of the zone depicts basically the type of uses. It's facilities that are related to the university that can range from apartments to limited commercial uses. And also, for example, the bookstore, restaurants are all allowed in the university zone. Matter of fact, the uses in the university zone are broader than those in the MS zone, but they're less broad as currently allowed in the CL zone.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, thank you.
So you could put a little restaurant
Yes.
or
Bookstores, I mean, there's a whole, whatever you can think that's related basically to university life, for example, dry cleaners, restaurants, anything you think students could use or would use. Banks are allowed in there, and again, restaurants are allowed in that zone.
Okay. Any comments from the audience? Any further comments from the council? Seeing no further comments, all vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mills.
Thank you.
Item 7, consider resolution 090708 to prohibit handguns in public municipal parks, natural areas, historic parks, nature trails, campgrounds, forests, greenways, waterways, or other similar public places. Sponsor Mr. Jim Shipley.
The state legislature this year adopted Public Chapter 428, which removed the state prohibition of carrying guns in parks. And that chapter also, it does allow local governments to opt out of the new law, and they have to do it by resolution, and that's what this resolution does, is opt out of that amendment to the state law. Currently in our municipal code, Title 16, Chapter 7, under rules and regulations for city parks, it states it shall be unlawful for any person to carry in any manner whatever, with the intent to go armed, any razor, dirk, knife, blackjack, brass knucks, pistol, revolver, air rifle, air gun, BB gun, etc. And the current state law about guns in parks is Tennessee Code Annotated 3917-13 1311, which currently prohibits carrying guns in parks. But this amendment would take effect September the 1st, which would allow people that have gun permits to carry guns in parks. And that is the prevailing statute if the city opts out of these amendments.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Shipley. Do we have a motion and a second?
We've received quite a bit of public comment on this issue, and we also want to hear what those in attendance tonight have to say. We are not ready to vote on this resolution tonight. Therefore, I move that this item be deferred for further study until the August 6th meeting, and that we open the floor for public comment tonight.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. At this time, I'll open up the floor to anyone that would like to come to the lectern and identify yourself. We'll give you up to 3 minutes to speak. And we appreciate your comments, and if you'd like to come up, we'll be happy to hear your comments.
We have two lecterns.
Either
Yeah,
side.
either one.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, sir.
Go ahead, sir.
Blue. Either one
Blue.
up there.
My name is Jim Murkison. I'm a resident of Cookeville, and I want to express my opinion that I think we should continue to prohibit handguns in these areas that are addressed by this comment. I particularly think about areas such as the Sportsplex over on the west side of town, where I think children are encouraged to participate and be a part of what's going on. And I would hate to think children are out there engaged in these sports activities and people are taking their handguns into such settings and being involved with handguns in those settings. I very much think we should continue to prohibit this. I would hope that if we start to make any comments about Second Amendment issues from the U.S. Constitution, that we would reference the complete amendment of the Second Amendment or quote the complete amendment and not an edited portion of it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Murkison.
Good evening. My name's William Shires, and I'm a transplanted military retiree, and I've lived here for 16 years now. I've just got a few remarks that should take just a minute, and beg your pardon, I'm not an accomplished public speaker, so I'm just going to read what I wrote.
That's fine.
Okay. First, I'm not sure why you're considering banning guns in parks. You already have a law in place, and I can tell you that it's not effective. I'm very experienced at spotting concealed weapons, and I see them every day. I don't know whether they're lawful or unlawful, but it doesn't matter. They're already there. So, I hope that members of the council, I hope that everyone here has actually read the Tennessee law, and you know that the law allows legal, licensed carry of a handgun. It doesn't allow you to go out there and get drunk and so on and so forth. Lawful carry. And I hope you're aware that criminals who don't obey the law are already carrying in your parks and everywhere else. I would hope that most of you are aware that the Supreme Court ruled in the Heller case that the Second Amendment recognizes a pre-existing individual right. Okay? In Miller versus U.S., now I'm not a lawyer, so don't question me on this. I'm just telling you what I've researched. In Miller versus U.S., it states that the claim and exercise of a constitutional right cannot be converted into a crime. In Murdoch, Pennsylvania, it states that the government may not impose a charge for the enjoyment of a right. So we got three things there we need to look at. For those of you that say that guns in parks aren't needed, I want to refer you to the case of Dr. Susanna Gracia Hupp, who was a Texas state representative who watched her parents as they were shot and killed in a Luby's cafeteria in 1991. She learned the horror and the shame of that event because she had left her personal defense weapon in the glove box of her car as she obeyed another handgun law. She couldn't do anything about it. They died in front of her. Now, she might have been successful, maybe not, but she had no chance. Okay. For those that say the police are going to protect you in the parks, Castle Rock versus Gonzalez, the Supreme Court said that the police have no duty to protect you, and there is no liability for them for failing to protect you. And quite frankly, the police cannot be everywhere. Okay, so if it takes a policeman 25 minutes to respond to your 911 call, that kidnapper, that murderer, that rapist has 25 minutes to do whatever they please. And all you can do is beg for mercy. And I'm here to tell you, I've seen these things happen. Okay, for those of you that say guns cause crime, all I'm going to say is please look at your United States government FBI statistics, which prove otherwise.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate your comments.
Thank
Thank you.
Mr. Church?
Yes, Sam.
Good evening, Councilman. I'd like to speak today first to the importance that I think we handled this issue today. And I'm not sure how it will come out, but I feel that if we let it go on, it'll just drum up more controversy. I think there's already enough controversy. I am a citizen of Cookeville, always have been since 1986. And I use the parks, and I don't see a reason to allow handguns in our parks. Now, handguns, according to our previous speaker, are already there. Well, they shouldn't be, and we need to enforce that. But to open up our parks everywhere, our Dogwood Park, our next park, maybe it's going up to Monterey. I'm opposed to having guns, handguns, dirks, razors on any person. And I'm concerned about children. I'm not going to state statistics though, because we all know that firearm deaths in this country far outnumber any other country in the world. Europe, Australia, New Zealand, we're far above the deaths by handguns and firearms. I propose that we listen to our law enforcement officers. Law enforcement throughout the U.S. are primarily opposed to increasing handguns and guns in society, including restaurants and bars. And there's a bill in the paper today, there's an article in the paper today about a bill about restaurants being opposed to handguns. But I've spoken to the people in Memphis, Tennessee. I've spoken to the people in Cookeville, Tennessee. I've spoken to Chief Bob Terry. Bob Terry's response is, and I quote him, and he says it's fine to quote him, "This is not Dodge City. It's a shame to think that people have to have a handgun to feel safe in our society." Where are we going in the society if you have to carry a gun into a restaurant and a bar to feel safe, or to carry a handgun in a park? What is it saying about us? More guns is less crime? I don't think so.
Thank you, Dr. Glasgow.
One more comment. Children have access to guns. There are over 35,000. Now there are over 3,500 children who were expelled because they took a gun to school in 1998. 40% of those were 43% were elementary or junior school. Kids have access to guns. And my last message is, what message are we sending our children? That might is right? Do we encourage them to negotiate? Do we encourage them to lead a peaceful life? Or we're going to be giving them a message that handguns are what we need to protect ourselves.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further comments? Yes.
Hi, I'm Susan Ford, and I just wanted to go, I'll be short. I just wanted to go on record to say that I would like to see guns continue to be prohibited in our parks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Ford.
Okay, sir.
Go.
Take your opportunity.
Before somebody else gets up.
Number one, I don't think we're talking about guns in the bars or anything else. We're talking about guns in the parks and part of the city that we're working now. Number two, a lot of money, time, expense was done recently by the representatives of Tennessee studying guns in parks, and they decided overwhelmingly that they would allow guns in the state parks. I don't know how the city of Cookeville can think that we're smarter than the representative that have spent this much time on this issue. I am Don Burton. I am a resident of Cookeville, Tennessee, and I do appreciate the time.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Burton. Appreciate your comments. Sure.
Hello, friends. I'm Ivan Cordray. I'm a resident here in Cookeville, and I think most of you got a message from me earlier today, or at least you should have. I hope I left it on the answering machine. Anyway, basically what I'm here to say is I like the status quo, which is we don't allow guns in our parks. Basically, what you're asked to vote on is, are we going to allow the current status of our parks to change, or are we going to preserve the status quo that seems to be working fairly well? It's true, there are probably people who are carrying guns in our parks already. But if a policeman happens to go out to Cane Creek Park and he spots, as our friend Mr. Shires can, someone carrying a gun, immediately that police officer knows something is not right with that person. And they have just cause for approaching that person and detaining that person. Now, I don't know why someone feels they need to have a gun in a city park. I think that is a sign that there may be something systemically wrong with our society. But more importantly, how many times have you been or heard of at a ball field where an umpire gets punched out by a parent because he doesn't like the call? I've got several friends I work with. They've seen it happen several times. Obviously, a rational person does not go up and punch someone in the face just because they didn't like the Little League call. But if that person had a gun and they are so irrational that they're going to go punch the umpire, maybe they're just irrational enough that they'll pull their gun, not bother to leave their seat, and shoot the umpire. That's the possibility we're making legal. And the current status quo works. I encourage you to keep the current status quo. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further comments? Yes, sir.
My name is John Johnson. I've been a resident of the county for 36 years now. I don't have any statistics with me, but one thing I'd like to say in addressing the last gentleman, anybody who would punch an umpire over a Little League call, I seriously doubt that he was able to get through the sheriff and the TBI and the FBI background check to even have a legal permit to carry a firearm. Beyond that, I know that Kennesaw, Georgia was the first city in the country that passed the law that as a head of household you had to have a weapon. And as soon as they did that, and I don't remember exactly, but that's been about 20 years ago now. And as soon as they passed that law, the crime rate in that municipality immediately dropped and has stayed down ever since. And I think the last statistic I saw on it was that every other town that has passed similar laws, the crime rate went down. The idea that if you are of a criminal mindset, if you know that you are in an area where legal handgun carry permit is, or legal handgun is not a law, not allowed, you are much more likely to try to commit a crime, as opposed to an area where you know that there are several thousand people in the state that have a right to carry a permit or to carry a firearm, and one of those just might be present when you try to perpetuate a crime. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Max Atnip, I'm resident of Cookeville. I get a little confused sometimes when we say parks and greenways, and the greenway, I think, extends quite a distance, and a lot of that distance would be pretty isolated, especially at certain times of the day. I don't know exactly how you would say, all right, when you're in the county you can, but as soon as you walk into the city, which I assume the city claims part of the greenway, that all of a sudden you can't. Well, what would this individual do with their firearm? Lay it on the side of the road? You know, you may not want to take a firearm into a park, and let's say that there was a circumstance where you just weren't prepared, but yet you would like to go with friends to the park. You know, you drive up to the park entrance. You do just lay your firearm there at the gate, then go on in. Now doesn't really make that much, when it would be actually safer to keep it secured in your automobile. Personal carry rights. I sure like to know that there are people within our community that might be carrying if there were a need to, simply because it's like the shell game, which the American military had. They had bunches of silos, but the Russians never knew which silo had a missile in it. Well, nobody knows who is carrying and who not, and that's a pretty good deterrent in my mind. I would like to see you follow the state of Tennessee and just let the state law prevail. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? All right, seeing no further comments, we have a motion that we would have the public hearing tonight. I don't know if you want to restate.
No, it said and defer it until the August 6th
to
meeting.
the August 6th.
Right.
So we'll study this a little further and take into consideration the comments we've heard tonight, and if there's anything else before we vote on this motion to defer, we'll be glad to have you come up and speak for 3 minutes.
Seriously, and I would like to encourage folks who feel strongly about this to definitely seek out council members and let your opinion be known, as that really always affects me greatly because I'm an elected representative, and getting the phone calls means a lot. So that, of course, opens us all up, but that's what we're here for, and I encourage you to email our email addresses and give us phone calls, so that on August 6th we can go forward with this.
All right, very good. Any other comments? Seeing no further comments, I'll vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you very much. Now to item 8, consider resolution 090709, committing to erecting berms and planting trees to serve as a buffer for residents adjacent to West Cemetery Road. Sponsor Mr. Jim Shipley.
Mayor and Council, we recently had a public hearing for the residents that are adjacent to the extension of the West Cemetery Road. And one of the residents, we told them we're going to build a berm and plant some trees on the berm to protect their residences from that street. And one gentleman asked sort of for a guarantee, I guess you'd call it. He asked that the city commit by resolution to build the berms and to plant the trees, and so I prepared this resolution, and I would recommend your approval.
All right, do we have a motion and a second to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have our motion and second. Any discussion by the council? Any comments from the audience? Seeing no comments, all vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Shipley. Item 9, consider appointment of the city attorney for a 2-year term. Sponsor, Mr. Jim Shipley.
Well, after an extensive search,
Background check.
Mr. Rader has agreed to serve for another 2-year term, and I would recommend his reappointment.
All right, do we have a motion and a second?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion by the council? With the economy the way it is, are we getting any kind of discount this next year?
I think the 5th year is free.
5th year? That's 2 more times, yeah. I'm not carrying a gun, don't worry.
All right. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Shipley. Item 10, well, you've got more things on here than James Mills does.
I know.
Item 10, consider appointment of the city judge for a 2-year term. Sponsor, Mr. Jim Shipley.
I would recommend the reappointment of David Ledbetter as city judge.
Do we have a motion and a second?
So
Move
moved.
approval.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion by the council? Seeing no discussion, I'll vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Item 11, consider approval for geotechnical services relative to the Highlands Business Park with Barge Wagner, Sumner, and Cannon. Sponsor, Mr. Jim Shipley.
When we originally approved the contract with Barge Wagner for the design and engineering of the Highland Business Park road, they had estimated $157,000, I think, for geotechnical services, and there was a lot of discussion with them at that point about just how much would we need to do. So we cut that $157,000 out. They have now come back and said it's time to do some geotechnical services, and they've estimated the cost to be $132,420. $19,000 of that involves some property in which we are still in litigation, so they won't be doing any geotechnical services on that property yet. We have approved with the county a total of $14,400,000 in financing to fund the road and the infrastructure and the utilities. The county will be paying half of this amount too, and with this added to our current contract, our current estimated cost will still be under that $14,400,000. And this is something we've got to do to build the road, and I would recommend your approval.
Okay, do we have a motion and a second to approve?
Move approval.
Second.
We have our motion and our second. Any discussion by the council?
So, Mr. Shipley, does the $19,000 come out?
Yes, it does. Really, all you're approving at this point is
About $113,000.
$113,420 probably, if I'm adding it right. It's the $132,420 less the 19, whatever. that is.
Okay.
Maybe with some good geotechnical work, it'll save us some money on our construction.
Hopefully.
Good. Any further discussion by the council? Any comments from the audience? Seeing none, I'll vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Shipley. Item 12, consider authorizing the city manager to acquire property by negotiation or eminent domain for the West Cemetery Road Extension Project. Sponsor, Mr. Greg Brown.
Mayor and council, the engineers are getting close to completing the plans for this road, and we'll be needing to acquire property to build it. The main areas are on the east and west ends of the project. I'd request your permission to start negotiating with the property owners to acquire it.
All right, do we have a motion and a second to approve?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have our motion to second. Any discussion by the council?
About how much do you think, I mean, how,
We don't have that tied down yet till the engineers get finished with the final plans. We know the general property owners, but we don't have an area totaled yet.
Being that this is going to run right by a school and connect a residential area to South Jefferson, which will ultimately be 5-laned, and I think have sidewalks on it, are there plans for sidewalks and/or bike trails along this, or bike
Yes, this is
lanes?
a 3-lane road with a sidewalk on the south side of the road.
Okay.
So there'll be a sidewalk on one side of the road?
Yes,
Okay.
on the school side.
On the school side?
Okay. All right. Any further discussion by the council? Any comments from the audience? Seeing none, all vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Brown. Item 13, consider authorizing the city manager to acquire property for the Tennessee Central Heritage Trail Project. Sponsor, Ms. Kathy Andrews.
Mayor and City Council, the Tennessee Central Heritage Trail, or also known as the Railsworth Trails Project, has reached the next phase of its development. This project is now in the acquisition or right-of-way phase. I'm recommending that you authorize the city manager to move forward with acquiring the property. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion and a second to approve?
move approval?
Second.
We have our motion and our second. Any comments from the council?
We're only acquiring the property inside the city limits.
No,
correct?
sir.
We're
acquiring all of it.
for all the other municipalities because
That's correct at this
Because
time.
we are the ones that have the grant.
That is correct.
Right. I know this is something I get asked about a lot, and I'm looking forward and anticipating this being completed. And so I'll do anything to get it done.
Thank you.
Is there quite a bit of property that you think in your plans at this point?
We have approximately, we don't have it nailed completely down, but we think we have about 29 pieces of property. Within those 29 pieces of property, we have about 23 property owners. There are some very small slithers, ranging from 1,288 square feet, and the largest being 80,000 square feet. So, like I said, there's about 29 pieces of property.
And these folks will have an opportunity if they want to donate that right-of-way for us to come through there, right?
Well, absolutely.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. I certainly hope they would see the value of having that through their property. I know there's a lot of developments up on top of Brotherton Mountain there that as soon as they found out about the bike trail coming through, that the lots actually went up in value because these people realized they could ride a bicycle out of their subdivision, get on this trail and ride to Cookeville and never have to get on a city street.
I want to know how they're going to get it back, though.
How do they go
They're going to
back?
ride that bicycle
Hey,
back up the mountain.
A train does not go up a steep grade. I'd say the grade on that's, I don't know what the grade is, the incline, but trains do not do very good vertically. So it follows the best. You couldn't go up that mountain any easier than on
Okay.
that train route.
The mayor has offered those that can. He's
And
going to go out and
I was
deliver
in
them.
the 100th anniversary of the depot parade this past weekend in a rickshaw driven by none other than Paul Miller, and his initial inclination with the rickshaw was to haul people who are disabled up the trail. And I'm going to tell you, if you can ride somebody in a rickshaw up that, you're doing pretty good. But it can be
think you
done,
would
Jim.
be.
So we can get you up through there.
Okay, that's good.
Put it in the rickshaw.
Any further comments? Seeing no further comments, I'll vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. Andrews.
Thank you.
And item 14, the resolution supporting and promoting the 2010 U.S. Census, sponsor Mr. James Mills.
Mayor and council members, earlier this week, on behalf of Mayor Sallee, I met with representatives of the U.S. Census Bureau regarding the City of Cookeville's participation in the 2010 census. We've been asked to partner with the Census Bureau to increase the accuracy and completeness of the census. As an indication of our willingness to partner with the Census Bureau, we've been asked to do a number of things, including the adoption of a resolution supporting the 2010 census, which is what is before the council tonight. Some of the other recommended activities include the establishment by the mayor of a complete count committee for the city, the designation of a census liaison, using the city's website to promote and participate in the census, and allowing the use of space for meetings and training. An accurate and complete 2010 census is vital to the City of Cookeville. The data collected from the census is used for numerous purposes. A list of 50 ways the census data is used is depicted upon the screen. Two of the most widely recognized uses of census data are for the reapportionment of federal, state, and local legislative districts and for the allocation of federal and state funds. For example, the distribution of state shared taxes, which includes the state sales and the gasoline and motor fuel taxes, are based upon population. For fiscal year 2009-2010, MTAS estimates the distribution to be $102.47 per person. The 2000 census population was 23,923. Our current state certified population, which is based on annexations we've completed since 2000, is 26,656. Based on the land use inventory completed in 2008, which identified 13,003 dwelling units in Cookeville, and utilizing the 2000 census average number of persons per household, the Planning Department estimates our current population to be 28,476 people. This estimate does not include students living on campus and persons living in industrial or institutional settings. So it's quite feasible that the city's population could reach 30,000 people in 2010. That's over $3 million per year just in state shared taxes. In addition just to the funding that's received based on the population data, the other data that's collected from the census is an invaluable planning tool. It's used not only by state, municipal, and county planning agencies to develop projections, but also by businesses and industries to make location and expansion decisions. For these and many other reasons, it's easy to understand the importance of an accurate census, and the Planning Department recommends for the adoption of the resolution before you.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. Do we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
We have our motion and our second. Any discussion by the council?
Just to encourage everybody to fill it out when they get it. A lot of times folks feel funny about that, but you know, information is a wonderful tool, and certainly if we can get money from the government because of it, that's not the primary reason, but that sure is a nice reason.
Right. And we all pay that money in our taxes,
Yeah,
and it could
exactly.
go to any community anywhere. We might as well get it back to Cookeville, and you have to be counted at least once.
And might want to note that we might want to note that everybody will receive the short form. It's only 10 questions. There's no more long form distributed as part of the decennial census. They've contracted with a private firm that does the long forms all through the decade. So for this count that will start it, the forms will be distributed in March. Will be 10 questions is all it is. And we've got to do what we can to get, like I said, it means a lot for different reasons for the city to get people
Will
to
they
participate.
come through the mail?
They'll come through the mail.
Okay, very good.
We
Yeah,
need to
this-
encourage them to do that.
This is something we need to be constantly reminding people, particularly right after the first of the year, prior to the March distribution. I'm assuming that that we'll know the date probably when this is going to come
It
out.
should be mid-March.
Mid-March. So
Yes.
we'll need to start after the first of the year, really reminding people, and may need to, I don't know if we can do some public service announcements on the radio or newspaper. I'm sure Mary Jo Denton will help us any way she can, and get the word out about this. This is very important to our community.
Get counted.
Any further comments? Any comments from the audience?
I do want to thank the council for selecting me to be the city attorney for 2 more years, and thank Mr. Shipley and his staff. I've enjoyed working with all of you, and I appreciate it very, very much.
We appreciate
We're
your
happy to
comments,
have you.
Dan. Thanks.
We got to vote on this.
Huh?
We got to vote on the
Yeah.
census.
Seeing no further comments, I'll vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
All right, thank you. Now, at this time, we have our hearing of citizens indoor delegations, and we invite our public to come and speak for up to 3 minutes. You can come and share your ideas and thoughts about the goings-on of Cookeville, Tennessee, or whatever. We'll give you a 3-minute platform. And we do have some guests tonight, and it's awful nice to have everybody with us tonight. We usually just have our department heads and, a few others. But tonight we do have some guests with us, and we appreciate you taking out of your time to be here tonight. Does anybody have any comments or concerns they'd like to share with the council tonight? And
Susan again. Can't keep my mouth shut. I just wanted to thank the council for all the work and the support they've given to the Rails with Trails project. It's an important project for me and for a lot of people I know, and you've been most supportive. I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. Any other comments? Any comments from the council? Any announcements?
Mr. Mayor, I did want to mention the parade that you were in, that it was a great parade that Saturday morning to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the depot. It was hot as all get out, no cool day for that, but there was a good crowd, and I think it's wonderful that we have this kind of legacy that we can celebrate and that we've preserved it and kept it so nicely. And you can tell that I've been out of school for a while because I am going to mention that the 4th of July is coming up, and I hope that while people eat their hamburgers and hot dogs and shoot off their fireworks, that they remember that July 4th is the day that the United States declared independence from Great Britain, and it's not just a day to eat watermelon, it's a day to remember our great history and to preserve it at all costs, and always keep that in mind when we celebrate such things. So
very good. And I would comment too on the parade. I know there were several people who participated in that,
right.
in the doing that. But Judy Duke,
yes.
absolutely did a fantastic job. And I'm telling you, at 10 minutes till, I think we started at 10.
Yes.
At 10 minutes till 10, she still had a smile on her face. And it went over very well. And all the participants that came out that day, I applaud you for coming out and participating. And there were a lot of spectators too. It was really neat. That was a good event. It was nice to be in a parade when it wasn't like sub-zero temperatures and like the Christmas parade. So that was good. And I hope everyone has a good 4th of July. Please be safe. It can be a dangerous holiday.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
The clerk just pointed out to me that we, in Judge Ledbetter's absence, we have always appointed Joy Gothard to serve as city judge in his absence. And I would like for y'all to appoint her as the assistant city judge, I guess.
All right. Let's go back. That was item 10 where we appointed David Ledbetter as city judge for a 2-year term. And this time I'll entertain.
We need to make a motion to open that item again.
No, I think we can just make a new item, can't we?
Yeah.
Entertain.
I think you need to reopen the meeting. You've adjourned the meeting.
No, I haven't.
You didn't? Okay.
Haven't adjourned yet.
All right.
Haven't adjourned.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Ms. Gothard as the assistant judge.
Okay.
Second motion.
And we have a second. Any discussion?
Right, to serve as judge in his absence.
In his absence.
Absentee judge.
Absentee.
Okay, do we have a second? We had a second from Gene. Any comments? Seeing none, all vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thanks for keeping us straight, Jay.
Thank you.
All right. Now, no other comments, concerns? I will entertain a motion. Oh, go ahead, Gene.
Do we have the picture? Okay. You know, we have a lot of business that we're very serious about, and sometimes we just need to lighten up a little. So I wanted to share with you this picture that we took in Siena, Italy, when my husband and I were visiting there. And this is the city hall in that town. And so, you know, Mr. Shipley is always talking about a new city hall. So I thought we might just show him that picture and see if he might like to have a city hall that looks like that.
No, I would not.
You would not.
That costs way too much money.
Yeah, I knew it had to do with money.
I'd say there weren't labor laws when that was built.
Yeah.
It was a very interesting building. We did not go on the inside, but that building was built in the 12th century. So it's just been, of course, I guess, held together as the years have gone by. But anyway, just wanted to show you that there are, way before our time, there were city halls, and they looked quite ornate.
Yeah, that's nice. That's a beautiful picture.
You can tell that one wasn't built in 1967 like that.
It's nice, and you know, in Europe they build buildings to last centuries, and you know, around here we're lucky if we get one to last a century.
Yeah.
All right. Any other comments? Seeing no further comments, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Adjourn. Everybody drop by my house and see my tree down.
I don't think that's a good idea. I really don't.